Hi there, I'm Sipka, and this is the Apatros Review. Now in this episode we do the first part of a three-part special called the D-Spectrum 13. Yes, I reached the 13th installment of the D-Spectrum. Now this is to mark my 325th review, which I did in the previous episode. And for those who don't know, the D-Spectrum is where I recount all the crappy films that I covered over the preceding 25 episodes. Now the D-Spectrum is basically the lowest three grades on my grading ladder. The D+, the D, and the D-. The D+ is a 3 out of 10, which is for films that are just disappointingly mediocre. Not just one level below average. D, which is a 2 out of 10, meaning films are just bad. And then there's the D-, the dreaded D-, which is a 1 out of 10, meaning films are absolutely atrocious. I don't do F scores. Anyway, now for part 1, we take a look at there's a total of 5 films in this part. I think like 12 or 13 films I've done that fit in this category, but anyway. Now for this part, we take a look at the Tim Kincaid Robot Trilogy, Holocaust, Mutant Hunt, and the Occultist. Now these three ultra-low budget works were amongst the very first direct-to-video films ever to hit the VHS market back in the 1980s. When Charles Band decided around 1985 to form a special company that dealt exclusively in features that are meant to be released straight to the VHS rental market, using word of mouth amongst video store customers to generate a profit using VHS rental receipts, little did he know that he had created a legendary new type of market, something Band is still doing to this day with his Full Moon Company. And by the way, all three of these films get a D-. Terrible. Now when he started this off, his company at the time, Wizard Video, which was originally dealing in American distribution of European genre films, including one of the label's most infamous videos, the original big box VHS release of Zombie Lake. You know, that French German nationalist zombie film? A title which had gained a fearsome so bad it's good reputation that stands to this day. Now, at the time, Wizard Video had hired another pioneer to deliver their first titles, Tim Kincaid, one of the founders of the hardcore gay erotica scene in the 1970s, who by the 1980s had decided to settle down, have a wife, who helped with producing his non-erotic stuff, and pop out a few kids. Kincaid's first film for Wizard Video was the 1986 feature Breeders. That, by the way, the term breeders is a derogatory term the gays used at the time to label straight people, a term now replaced these days with the even more offensive cis. And the film concerned an alien creature that lives inside human hosts and which forces itself onto virgin women in New York City. The film was one of the very first direct-to-video features ever, and its notoriety landed Fangoria in trouble. I'll talk about that film in the future. Haven't reviewed it yet. But as for the Robot Trilogy, Kincaid made these three films in a row after Breeders, and while they're not a true trilogy as their stories are not connected, they do feature robots in them. Robot Holocaust was a post-apocalyptic tale of a band of rebels, led by what seems to be a cyborg, although his true nature is never explained. He looks to be simply an augmented human, judging by his ability to breathe toxic and some sort of telepathic ability to communicate with robots, but doesn't have any obvious synthetic parts showing. So it looks human, but it just kind of implied that he might be more than human. Anyway, and his second in command, a surprisingly resourceful pickpocket robot named Clayton, and a number of humans who have been given gadgets that enable them to filter the air they breathe, all of whom are on the standard fantasy quest to depose a rogue artificial intelligence known as the Dark One, and his army of seriously down-market looking robot soldiers, and a rather incompetent second command, a female android. Anyway. Now, along with the reluctant help of a captured member of a tribe of feminists that live in Central Park, the rebels take the fight to the Dark One to free the post-New York from robot control. Absolute crappy film. Mutant Hunt was a more straightforward tale of a mad industrialist who has infected his newest line of cyborgs, the Delta 7 mold cyborgs, which resemble the Devo groupies, with a highly addictive drug known as euphorin, turning them into sexual maniacs. Something that would have been awesome in a nasty way if done right, which Kincaid fails to accomplish, and the robot's designer calls in a bounty hunter friend to help him stop his boss's nasty plans. Mutant Hunt was actually the last film that Wizard Video released, as Band had sold the label to another party. This is why there are no trails in the VHS release of that film, if you find the American Wizard Video tapes of that. But that being said, that didn't stop Band and Kincaid from releasing the final part of that 5-picture deal, Kincaid also around the time produced the bizarrely trashy horror movie with Necropolis, which was actually directed by someone else, but Kincaid produced it sometime after Breeders. Now, the last film in that Robot Trilogy is the utterly trashily weird cheapjack political thriller The Occultist, which was released in Australia as Waldo Warren, Private Dick Without a Brain, which had an awesome cover art that lured in quite a few trash movie fans over the years, including me. Where a struggling security company CEO calls in a favor to a friend, the cyborg mercenary Waldo Warren, to help him with a challenging case helping the president of a Caribbean island file rightful interests in a treacherous military officer, a case that, thanks to a local voodoo queen, very quickly turns into a clusterfuck. Now, all three of these films are abysmally atrocious. The utter lack of anything resembling style from Kincaid's lethargic direction, you can tell his talents lay elsewhere, the pathetic acting from most of the cast, the flat staging of the sparsely applied action sequences, the utter lack of budget resulting in dirt cheap practical visual effects, which at the very least look convincing enough for the pay grade, and the flat storytelling all combined to make the Tim Kincaid Robot Trilogy one of the worst things to have come out of the 1980s. Afterwards, Charles Band formed Full Moon to continue his direct-to-video Destiny, and Tim Kincaid went back to gay hardcore. Now, Paranormal Activity 4, directed by Henry Juice and Ariel Schulman, 2012. I gave this one a D. Now, after the original Paranormal Activity made an absolute killing at the box office and becoming a festival favorite, Paramount made a deal with then-fledgling medium-budget horror studio Blumhouse, later becoming the wokest player in the horror field a few years later, to make a number of sequels to the Orimpelli hit, resulting in 5 variable sequels. The first 2 follow-ups are surprisingly good, but once Paranormal Activity 4 came around, the franchise stumbled down the box office stairs and twisted a leg. Paranormal Activity 4 was a sequel that didn't need to be told, as this time we followed the plight of an unconnected family whose adopted son actually turned out to be the baby that was snatched in the second film, the family being hassled by the demon Toby, and its assistant Katie, who makes a final main appearance here. In fact, the last appearance she has in the franchise is a cameo in the next film. This is also where we, the audience, start to get some background information on the midwives, a cult of devil-worshipping women who mark certain pregnant mothers to be with a mission to do the devil's work, which is to bring the Toby demon to mortal life. We don't see too much in this one, just the usual things going bump in the night shenanigans the franchise is known for, but this time adding in a weird gimmick of using a Kinect sensor, which is that device that you plug into an Xbox or to the Wii or something, to basically, as a motion tracker, use it like playing those dancing games and stuff. And if you use a camera with night vision, you can see the green dots, tracking dots that the Kinect system use. So basically, they use Kinect to pretty much detect the demon, which is, it's a dumb idea, dumb gimmick. Anyway, so it was a pretty bad film, that one. So I give that a D. And as for the next Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, which was directed by Christopher Land in 2014, that also gets a D. Now, The Marked Ones is actually the first installment of the franchise to try something substantially different than the formula. This time we get a group of Latino teenagers. I don't use that ridiculous term, Latinx, it's just ridiculous. They're Latinos, who were marked by the midwives before they were born, suddenly getting supernatural powers after they discover a member of the cult living in the apartment beneath them in the middle of a marking ritual. The witch is killed by another marked one, and the protagonists attempt to stop the midwife's plan, even going to the extent of roping in a couple of gangbangers with guns to take the war to the witches, which sounds awesome on paper, but the midwives prove to be as tough as they're evil. While I appreciate the franchise going off-road for their formula to try something new, as it stands, Paranormal Activity in Marked Ones is the only one in the franchise to feature guns and nudity in it. The pregnant woman, staying naked in the ritual, was played by an actress who specialized in lesbian hardcore erotica. You can look it up. Now, but the film shoots itself in the foot by going down the road and making a found footage version of Spawn, and failing at that. Plus, while the climax clearly ties in with the climax of the original film, the process of using witchcraft for time travel comes off as just plain silly, and going against the established law of the franchise when it comes to the midwives. Witches that travel through time? Get fucking real. And Katie's appearance here is just a literal replay of her original role. That's it. That's the last time we see Katie in the franchise. And Christopher Landon pretty much delivered a really, just a surprisingly bad film. So Paranormal Activity marking is a D. Okay, that's it for part 1 of D Spectrum 13. I will continue this in the coming days, so keep an eye out for that. Now, I don't do requests, but if you have any questions about films or DVDs in general, just hit me up in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer. Hope you guys are staying safe. Take it easy, and that's it for this video. See ya.